We live in a world that rewards ease. Convenience is everywhere. We have food delivered to our doorsteps, knowledge in the palm of our hands, and an entire marketplace one tap away. But with all this ease, something critical is quietly slipping away: our ability to grow. Growth does not live in the realm of the convenient. It never has. True growth, meaningful, lasting, character-shaping growth, happens at the edge of discomfort. It happens when we choose the harder path, not because it guarantees success, but because it guarantees transformation. It is in the resistance that we become stronger. Let's think about this in a very human way. We all have something we avoid, a conversation we're afraid to have, a goal we delay because it intimidates us, a risk we don't take because failure feels too close. But what if we flipped the script? What if the thing you're avoiding is the very thing you were built to face? What if the obstacle isn't there to stop you, but to shape you? Think back to a time when you did something hard. Not something hard for the sake of difficulty, but something that challenged who you were. Maybe it was speaking in front of a crowd for the first time. Maybe it was starting over in your career. Maybe it was confronting a painful truth about yourself. You didn't grow before that moment. You grew because of that moment. You grew because you chose discomfort over comfort. You grew because you decided you were ready to meet a higher version of yourself. It's easy to underestimate the value of discomfort because it doesn't feel good. But feelings lie. Just because something feels safe doesn't mean it's serving you. In fact, many people spend their whole lives inside comfort zones that are killing their potential. These zones aren't labeled as cages. They're decorated with certainty, routine, and predictability, but they still lock us in. Comfort zones aren't bad in themselves. They serve a purpose. They give us rest, they allow us to reset, but they were never meant to be homes. They're meant to be launch pads. The problem comes when we mistake comfort for fulfillment. Comfort doesn't fulfill us, it just pacifies us. And anything that pacifies us too long begins to slowly suffocate us. Here's the paradox of progress. We don't grow when we feel good. We grow when we're stretched, when we're pressed, when we're pushed beyond the limits we've accepted as just who I am. That pressure isn't punishment. It's a call. A call to break your own boundaries, a call to redefine what's possible, a call to discover what you're capable of when you stop hiding behind ease. The people we admire most are rarely the ones who had it easy. We admire the ones who went through something, the ones who were broken open and rebuilt stronger, the ones who walked through fear and uncertainty not because they were fearless, but because they believed something bigger was on the other side. That's the real definition of courage. Not the absence of fear, but the decision that something matters more than fear. Doing what is hard doesn't make you unstoppable immediately, but it builds you piece by piece into someone who can endure more, lead better, and live deeper. Every time you choose the hard road, when you make the call, apply for the role, go to the gym when you don't feel like it, speak up when it would be easier to stay silent, you're expanding the borders of who you are. It doesn't happen all at once. Growth is slow, unglamorous, and often invisible. But over time, the discomfort compounds into strength. The hard things that once scared you become your training ground. What once felt impossible becomes familiar. That's how people change. Not through sudden epiphanies, but through consistent decisions to face what's hard. Some people wait their whole lives for the feeling of readiness before they do something hard. But readiness is a myth. You don't get ready first. You do the hard thing and then you become ready. The doing is what prepares you. Waiting for comfort before you act is like waiting to feel strong before you train. It's backwards. The act of doing the difficult is what makes you capable. There's a hidden gift in doing what's hard. It's not just that you get stronger, it's that your confidence grows, not the shallow kind of confidence that comes from praise or validation, but the deep kind that says, I've been through fire and I didn't burn. I've done hard things, I can do more. That kind of confidence doesn't come from books or quotes, it comes from experience, it comes from scars. But you don't need to do everything at once. The good news is, The edge of your comfort zone isn't a cliff. It's a door. You don't have to leap, you just have to step. Small, consistent steps into discomfort. That's how momentum is built. And once you get used to being uncomfortable, something incredible happens. You stop fearing hard things. You begin to welcome them. The choice to grow is a daily one. It's not made in dramatic moments. It's made in the quiet, simple decisions. Do I get up or hit snooze? Do I speak my truth or stay silent? Do I try again or give up? These choices don't just define your day, they define your life. And each time you choose the harder option, you're voting for the person you're becoming. So, the next time something feels hard, pause before pulling back. Ask yourself, what if this is the very thing that will move me forward? What if this isn't resistance? It's an opportunity. What if this isn't happening to me, but for me? The edge of discomfort is not the end, it's the beginning. It's where we stop pretending and start becoming. Where we stop settling and start rising. Where we stop asking for easy and start choosing what matters. Because if you want to become unstoppable, you don't chase ease. You choose the edge. We often think of freedom as doing what we want when we want. The ability to say yes to anything or no to everything. And while that version of freedom feels appealing, it's actually a trap. Real freedom, the kind that builds meaningful lives, strong leaders, and fulfilled people, doesn't come from chaos. It comes from discipline. It's easy to look at people who've made it, those who seem to flow through life with ease and excellence, and assume they're just lucky or gifted. But if you take a closer look, behind every strong performance is a quiet discipline. Behind every confident voice is 1,000 moments of practice. Behind every success story is a pattern of hard choices, made over and over again, long after the excitement wore off. Discipline doesn't get much attention. It's not glamorous, it doesn't trend. You don't go viral for waking up early or sticking to your plan when no one's watching. But that's exactly what makes it powerful. Discipline lives in the shadows. It's not loud, but it's relentless. And it's always building something. The people who become unstoppable in any area of life, business, health, creativity, relationships, they aren't the ones who chase every opportunity or wait for motivation. They're the ones who decide and then commit and then repeat that commitment every single day, especially when it's hard. Discipline isn't about being rigid. It's about being intentional. It's choosing your future over your feelings. It's saying, I don't feel like it right now, but I do it anyway because I said I would. There's something profoundly freeing about doing what you said you'd do. In a world filled with distractions and excuses, keeping your word to yourself, most of all, is rare. But when you do, something shifts. You start to trust yourself. And when you trust yourself, you don't second guess as much. You don't need outside approval as often. You move with clarity, not confusion. That's freedom. Not the freedom to avoid hard things, but the freedom to face them without fear of breaking. Discipline creates that. It becomes your foundation. Without it, even the best plans fall apart. Think of it like this. Motivation is the spark, but discipline is the structure that holds the fire. If you wait to feel like doing the hard thing, you'll wait forever. But if you build a system around what matters to you and follow it no matter how you feel, eventually your feelings catch up. We live in a world obsessed with quick fixes, 30-day plans, instant success, rapid hacks. But the truth is, real achievement takes time. And time is only your ally when discipline is your companion. And time is only your ally when discipline is your... You don't get to choose your results. You only get to choose your habits. Your habits choose your results for you. It's funny, people often assume discipline is about punishment, that it's about depriving yourself of pleasure or constantly forcing yourself into stress. But that's not discipline. That's pressure. And they're very different. Pressure is about force. Discipline is about choice. It's choosing alignment, choosing consistency, choosing what's right over what's easy. And the rewards are different too. When you live without discipline, it might feel good in the short term. You get comfort, relief, maybe even a hit of success. But without discipline, those wins are fleeting. You'll spend your time reacting instead of creating, drifting instead of leading. But with discipline, even small wins compound. You're not dependent on circumstances. You become resilient, reliable. Freedom through discipline isn't just about achieving more, it's about becoming more. When you do the hard thing consistently, you become someone who can trust yourself, someone who can be counted on. That's not just a personal victory, it's a leadership trait. Because people don't follow those who are always comfortable, they follow those who are consistent. Those who have the discipline to keep showing up, especially when it would be easier to stop. And here's the thing, it's not always about grinding. Discipline isn't about never resting. It's about knowing when to rest and choosing it with intention, not out of fatigue or collapse, but because rest is part of the process. The most disciplined people in the world aren't robots. They're deeply in tune with themselves, they know what matters, and they align their actions to match that. You might wonder, where do I even start? The answer is simple. Start small. Discipline doesn't need to begin with overhauling your life. It can begin with one commitment, one daily action, one promise you keep, even when it's inconvenient. Because when you prove to yourself that you can follow through on the little things, you start to believe you can do the big things too. You don't need more time. You don't need better luck. You need better habits. You need decisions that serve the future you, not just the present you. And the good news? You're in control of that. Right now, today. It's tempting to believe that success is about having the right tools, the right connections, the right timing, but most often, success goes to the person who simply stayed in the game longer, who got up earlier, stayed later, repeated the boring but important things when everyone else got distracted. That's discipline. It's not sexy, but it works. Every time. And over time, it builds a kind of freedom that can't be taken from you. The freedom to respond instead of react. The freedom to lead instead of follow. The freedom to act on your values, not your emotions. That is the kind of freedom that creates real, lasting change, not just in your life, but in the lives of others. So if you want to become unstoppable, don't chase motivation, build discipline. It's not about being perfect, it's about being committed. And when you live like that, when you align your actions with your values over and over again, you won't need to shout that you're unstoppable. Your life will say it for you. Every one of us at some point will hit a wall. Not just a minor inconvenience, but a real wall, a failure, a rejection, a moment that stops us in our tracks and makes us question everything, our abilities, our worth, our path. And while these moments feel like setbacks, they are in truth mirrors. Because what we do when we hit the wall doesn't just show the world who we are. Obstacles don't build your identity, they expose it. They bring to the surface everything you believe, everything you've rehearsed, and everything you've ignored. When everything's going well, it's easy to act composed, positive, and driven. But when things fall apart, when the plan doesn't work, when the opportunity vanishes, when you're tired, unseen, and uncertain, that's when the real version of you walks into the room. The hard parts of life are revealing. They don't ask for a mask, they strip it away. They don't invite your best self, they demand your truest one. And that's not always comfortable. It's not supposed to be. Growth doesn't ask for comfort, it asks for truth. There's a reason we remember the stories of people who overcame, because deep down, we know that their success didn't come from what they accomplished. It came from what they endured, from how they responded, from what they discovered in the depths of adversity. They didn't become great in spite of the obstacle. They became great because of it. Think about it. We don't admire people who had a smooth ride. We admire the ones who kept showing up after everything tried to stop them. The ones who failed, broke, cried, doubted, and still returned to the fight. There's something profoundly human about that. Because we see ourselves in it. Not the polished version we show the world, but the raw, unfinished version, the version we're all still working on. Obstacles are humbling. They remind us that we're not invincible, but they also remind us that we're not weak. Hitting a wall doesn't mean you're done. It means you've reached a point where your current level no longer works. It's an invitation to grow, to adapt, to become someone who can climb higher. But here's the truth. You don't rise by avoiding the wall. You rise by meeting it, facing it, studying it, finding out where it challenges you, and then doing the uncomfortable work to grow past it. Not around it, through it. The greatest shifts in life don't come from everything going right. They come from being forced to confront what's wrong. That lost job, it pushed you to rediscover your purpose. That breakup, it taught you what you truly value. That rejection, it thickened your skin and sharpened your vision. These moments aren't easy. They're never easy, but they are honest. And honesty is where real change begins. Most people spend their lives trying to avoid pain, but pain has a strange way of becoming our greatest teacher. It shows us where we still have healing to do, where our fears live, where our strength is waiting to be tested. Pain doesn't come to punish us. It comes to prepare us. It's not the enemy, it's the forge. And yet when we hit resistance, we often interpret it as a sign to stop. But what if resistance is actually a sign to start? What if that uncomfortable tension means you're on the verge of a breakthrough? What if the discomfort is a sign that you finally stopped hiding and started becoming? No one is born resilient. Resilience is earned, it's learned. It's built in the fires of trial, decision by decision. Each time you choose not to run, not to numb, not to quit, you're building something unshakable inside of you. You're becoming someone who doesn't fold under pressure. Someone who sees the obstacle, feels the fear, and says, this isn't the end, this is the test. And that's the key. Obstacles are tests, not of your ability, but of your belief. Do you believe enough in what you're doing to keep going when it's hard? Do you believe enough in who you are becoming to keep choosing growth when comfort is easier? Do you believe enough in your purpose to walk through fire for it? Because if the answer is yes, then the obstacle is not a stop sign. It's a proving ground. It's where the talk ends and the walk begins. It's where words turn into character, where dreams turn into discipline, where good intentions turn into real integrity. There's no shame in struggling. Struggle is not weakness. Struggle is evidence that you're in the game, that you're pushing forward, that you're reaching. No one struggles on the sidelines. Only those who are brave enough to step into the arena will know what resistance feels like. And if you're in that space right now, if life feels heavy, unclear, or overwhelming, let me tell you something you might need to hear. This is not the end of your story. It's the part where your strength is revealed. It's the part where you meet the version of you that you've never met before. The one who rises after falling. The one who learns from the pain. The one who keeps going when there's no applause. Obstacles don't mean you're off track. Sometimes they're confirmation that you're finally on it. Because anything worth building will test you. It will challenge your patience, your focus, your identity. That's the price of becoming someone who's truly unstoppable. And it's a price worth paying. So when you hit the wall, don't turn back, don't curse it, don't panic. Pause, breathe, ask the question, what is this here to teach me? Then listen and act. Because on the other side of that obstacle is not just success, it's strength. It's clarity. It's a version of you that only hard things can bring out. This isn't about being fearless, it's about being honest. Honest enough to admit when it's hard. Honest enough to stay when you want to leave. Honest enough to become the kind of person who keeps showing up even when there are 1,000 reasons to quit. Because when you learn to see obstacles not as threats but as tools that refine you, expose you, challenge you, you no longer fear them. You welcome them, you walk toward them, and in doing so, you don't just survive the hard things, you're transformed by them. That's when you become unstoppable. We all crave safety. It's natural. From the moment we're born, we seek out what's warm, familiar, predictable. That need doesn't go away. It just evolves. As adults, we wrap our lives in routine. We chase certainty. We build systems that protect us from risk, from pain, from failure. We convince ourselves that if we can just control enough variables, we'll be fine. But here's the truth we don't often admit. The same comfort that soothes us can also imprison us. Comfort zones don't announce themselves. They don't come with warning signs or labels that say you've stopped growing. In fact, they often feel like success, a good job, a steady schedule, a life that's manageable. And that's the trap. Comfort can feel like peace, when in reality it might just be quiet surrender. A slow, subtle drift away from who we're capable of becoming. There's nothing inherently wrong with comfort. We all need rest. We all need recovery. But comfort becomes dangerous when it turns into avoidance. When we use comfort not as a place to recharge, but as a place to hide. It becomes a cage, not a loud, visible one, a soft one, padded with routine, lined with convenience, locked from the inside. And the scariest part? Most people will live their entire lives in that cage and call it freedom. They'll mistake ease for fulfillment. They'll mistake ease for fulfillment, safety for purpose. But ease is not the goal. Ease is not where life reveals its depth. The most meaningful moments in our lives, the ones that change us, shape us, make us, we don't find them inside our comfort zones. We find them on the edge, in uncertainty, in challenge, in the decision to try, even when success isn't guaranteed. We've been taught to chase stability. But what if stability is not the same as purpose? What if growth requires tension? What if who you want to become can only be reached by stepping outside of what's comfortable? It's easy to stay where it feels safe. But if nothing is challenging you, nothing is changing you. And if nothing is changing you, then no matter how productive you look, you're still stuck. It's entirely possible to be busy and stagnant at the same time. Activity does not equal growth. Movement does not equal progress. The real question is not, are you working hard, but are you working towards something that scares you just a little? We need to reframe how we view discomfort. We treat discomfort like an alarm, something to be silenced, escaped, ignored. But discomfort is not a danger signal. It's a growth signal. It means something important is happening. It means you've reached the frontier of your current capacity. And that's where the good stuff lives. That's where potential starts to wake up. Growth feels like tension. It feels like uncertainty. It feels like, I don't know if I'm ready for this. And that's exactly the feeling you need to lean into. Because on the other side of that tension is a stronger, bolder, more capable version of you. But you'll never meet that version if you never leave what's familiar. There's a moment in every person's life when they realize they've been playing small. Not because they lack ability, but because they've settled. Settled for what's easy. Settled for what's expected. Settled for what's familiar. And the thing about settling is, it doesn't hurt at first. It actually feels pretty good. But over time, it eats away at you. Quietly, softly. Until one day you wake up with a question that's hard to shake. Is this really it? That question is a gift. It's your soul trying to get your attention. It's the beginning of something real. Because the first step toward breaking out of a comfort zone is noticing you're in one. And once you see the cage, you can't unsee it. You start to feel the restlessness, the hunger, the frustration, that you've built a life that looks fine on the outside but doesn't challenge you on the inside. So what do? You start small. You don't need to burn your life down. You don't need to make dramatic leaps. You just need to make a different choice today than you made yesterday. Say yes to something you'd usually avoid. Speak up when you'd normally stay quiet. Learn something that makes you feel clumsy and unsure. These aren't huge moves, but they crack the cage. They make space for change. Every time you step outside your comfort zone, even a little, you're training yourself. You're building courage, resilience, humility. You're teaching yourself that uncertainty isn't fatal, that failure isn't final, that being uncomfortable is not a reason to stop. It's a reason to keep going. We wait for courage to come first, but that's not how it works. Courage doesn't show up fully formed. It builds, moment by moment, on the other side of discomfort. The more you stretch, the more it grows. The more it grows, the more you realize you were never really trapped. The cage wasn't locked. It just felt safer than the unknown. But the unknown is where your life is waiting. Not the life you've been surviving, but the life you were meant to lead. The one where you are fully engaged, fully alive, fully awake. That life requires risk. It requires vulnerability. It requires victory. Life requires bold. It requires vulnerability. It requires you to walk away from the shallow promise of comfort and choose the deeper promise of growth. And that's the paradox. We spend our lives chasing comfort, but the most alive we ever feel is when we're on the edge. When we're trying, stretching, risking, creating, connecting. The edge is where we feel our heart beat faster, not from fear, but from the sense that something real is happening. If you want to become unstoppable, stop waiting for life to get easier. Stop praying for a path without pressure. Instead, ask for the courage to leave the cage, to trade comfort for growth, to walk into the unknown, not because you're fearless, but because you finally understand. The real danger isn't outside your comfort zone. The real danger is staying inside it and calling that a life. You were not born to be safe. You were born to grow. You were born to lead. You were born to live fully. And everything you want, everything that matters, is waiting for you just outside the edge of what you know. So open the door, step out, and don't look back. We often think of being unstoppable as a title you earn, a finish line you cross, a medal, a role, a result that proves to the world and to yourself that you've made it. But being unstoppable isn't about where you end up. It's about how you keep going. It's not a destination, it's a decision, a mindset, a way of showing up long before the world starts to notice. Some people chase results their whole lives. The promotion, the number, the approval. They believe once they have that, they'll feel secure. But here's the paradox. If your power comes from a result, it can also be taken away by one. True power, the kind that makes you unstoppable, doesn't come from what you achieve. It comes from who you become when things get hard and you choose not to stop. Being unstoppable doesn't mean you never struggle. It doesn't mean you always feel confident. It doesn't mean things always work out. What it means is that no matter what's in front of you, fear, fatigue, you keep moving, you adapt, you learn, you rise. Not because it's easy, not because it's fun, but because the mission matters more than the obstacle. They wait until the fear goes away. But the truth is, readiness is a side effect of action. You get ready by doing. You get strong by moving forward. You build resilience not by avoiding difficulty, but by stepping into it again and again with open eyes and an open heart. There's something powerful that happens when you stop trying to avoid struggle and start embracing it as part of the process. When you understand that being unstoppable isn't about brute force or pretending you're unbreakable. It's about making a quiet promise to yourself. I will not quit even if I have to crawl. I will not give up even if progress is invisible. I will not define myself by setbacks because I am built to keep going. This mindset doesn't show up all at once. It's earned. It's forged in the fires of effort, repetition, and failure. It's shaped in the moments no one sees. When you show up even though you don't feel like it. When you get up after being knocked down. When you speak truth in rooms that don't want to hear it. Those moments may seem small, but they are sacred. They're the proof that you are becoming the kind of person who refuses to stay down. Too often we think we have to feel powerful to act powerful. But that's backward. Action creates emotion. Doing creates belief. Every time you show up with courage, even a little, you strengthen the muscle of belief. You teach your brain that fear doesn't have the final word. You train yourself to trust the process, not the outcome. The people who go the furthest are not the ones who never fail. They're the ones who turn failure into fuel. They're the ones who understand that setbacks aren't the opposite of success, they're part of it. Every great journey has moments of doubt, confusion, and exhaustion. What makes it great is not the absence of those things, but the decision to keep moving through them. And that's the beautiful thing about being unstoppable. It doesn't require perfection. It just requires persistence. You don't need to be the best, you need to be consistent. You need to care more about the mission than the mood you're in. You need to choose long-term meaning over short-term comfort. We've been conditioned to chase speed, faster success, immediate results, instant gratification, but nothing meaningful happens fast. Relationships take time. Mastery takes time. Confidence takes time. Becoming unstoppable is about building brick by brick, day after day, long after the excitement wears off. Sometimes being unstoppable just means showing up again, even when yesterday was hard. Even when the voice in your head is filled with doubt. Even when you don't know if it's working. Because when you show up again and again, you send a message to the world, and more importantly to yourself, that you are not fragile. You are not here to coast. You are here to lead, to grow, to serve. This mindset changes how you see everything. Challenges become opportunities. Mistakes become lessons. Delays become training. Instead of asking, how can I make this easier? You start asking, what is this trying to teach me? That question alone can change your entire life because it shifts you from reaction to responsibility, from avoidance to ownership, from fear to freedom. Unstoppability isn't about ego. It's not about pretending you have all the answers. It's about humility. The humility to keep learning. The humility to admit you're not there yet. The humility to ask for help and still keep climbing. That kind of strength is quiet, but it's unmistakable and it's contagious. When people see someone who keeps showing up, not because it's easy, but because it matters, they are drawn to that. They trust it. They follow it. Because deep down, we all want to believe that it's possible to keep going even when life tries to break us. And when we see someone living that truth, we remember it's possible for us too. Being unstoppable isn't about having all the resources. It's about being resourceful. It's not about being fearless. It's about being courageous in the presence of fear. It's not about never falling. It's about getting up one more time than you fall. That's the mindset. That's the movement. The world doesn't need more perfect people. It needs more determined ones, more committed ones, more people who are willing to be in the fight even when it's messy, even when it's thankless, even when it's unclear. Because that's what changes things. That's what builds legacy. That's what separates those who quit from those who lead. So if you want to become unstoppable, stop chasing arrival. Stop chasing the finish line. Start becoming the kind of person who keeps showing up. Who keeps growing, who keeps loving, creating, risking, not for applause, but because it's who you are. That mindset, that quiet, consistent, relentless mindset, that's what makes you truly unstoppable